Hello everyone, welcome to the keynote. It's fantastic to see you all. Hope you're all well. I've got Caroline Jackson and Helen Fullerton joining me. Lovely to see you both. So I'm just going to hand over now to Caroline, who is going to give us an overview. So over to you now, Caroline.
Okay, thanks Samantha, and thanks for all of the teams that have invited us and myself along this afternoon. It looks like it's going to be a really great session. You've had a look at the intro video, the bridge, and the afternoon is called Bridging the Gap in the Events Industry. Now, I don't know if it's a good image or not, but you could think of an image. Samantha and I are starting off this afternoon because we bridge that river. We have feet in both camps, so to speak. So both academics and both practitioners. But actually, I'd rather you thought of us as the bridge, that many and everybody involved with this afternoon are bridges who you travel along and journey along, because there isn't a gap necessarily between what you've been studying or what you've studied in the past and the events industry, if that's what you want to work in. So I hope that all of you watching are well and you are looking after yourselves and your loved ones, because that's what we do in the events business. We are a people business, and all right, we may not be in healthcare, we are in event care, and we need to make sure that we do look after ourselves, and that has been one of the messages, hasn't it? That's been that has gone out. I sit in both camps, but I'd rather say that we are all part of the event ecosystem, because I'm an event educator and a consultant. I've been an event academic for quite a long time, developed some of the first event degrees in the country, developed event degrees at Bournemouth University, and we ended up with 26 academics, about 800 students. So it has been a growing field, but it's a field of study that you are part of or have been part of. And that's something that you have to cherish and make the most of. But we are a interdisciplinary subject area, so we learn from all areas and subjects, and hopefully that is what you have been and are studying at the moment. And it's that multidisciplinarity, that multi-skilled nature of the job that makes it really quite exciting and transferable. But you also need to think about how you apply that. So we are an applied field. So the other organisation that I'm part of is the Business Visits Events Partnership. That is the umbrella organisation that brings the trade and professional bodies and those organisations within the UK that have tried to influence the policy and practice of what's going on. And during the pandemic, of course, everybody involved with BVEP have been really busy and dealing with government particularly. And that's what, again, has shone a light on the fact that despite the criticisms of the fact that we're fragmented, we are coming together. Yes, there may be differences, and we can see that in the whole allowing people to congregate and have safe events is a little bit different in the nation states and a different type of event, but it's brought everyone together, and part of that is something that's going to be rolled out in the next few months, which is the one industry, one voice. It's not saying that we're all the same, it's just saying that we value the variety and the difference between the different types of events. So there's two major organisations that I'm part of that covers events education and covers events practice. And that's what you've been studying or have studied if you're a grad, and I'm hoping that that's what you have taken away with you, is that ability to think, see the bigger picture, and to see that there actually is a difference between the longer term, deeper learning that you've gathered on your degree or your postgraduate qualification and the training perhaps that you've been picking up along the way as well. So the pandemic has given us fantastic access to resources and to people. And I think that's where the events industry, again, if we think of it as a collective of people, have been really supportive and welcoming. And I think that's demonstrated by the number of people involved with this afternoon's event, and the fact that you can demonstrate yourselves what skills and abilities that you have that get up and go. And you can just see that with, you know, Events 101 and Events Grads, and because the work that Samantha does as well demonstrates that everyone is focused on everyone's well-being and development and growth, and that interest. So I'm really looking forward to this afternoon. I'm looking forward to this first session where we can have a good discussion, and hopefully you're going to put some questions into the chat as well, that we can build together the future of events. And hopefully that bridge is just a fantastic view and a fantastic journey through which you pick up your own, what we call social and human capital. I prefer to call it values. You develop yourself what you think your values are. And as an industry, we need to understand how valuable we are and how we are valued, not just in financial economic terms, but how important we've been an art, a society and culture. And again, I think the pandemic has demonstrated that. So thank you very much for inviting me and for letting me talk for the first few minutes, and back to Samantha.
Thank you so much, Caroline. That was fantastic. Welcome to you all. So we've got Helen Fullerton and Mark Breen also joining us. So thank you, Caroline, so much for starting that off and for giving an overview a bit of what you do. That was fantastic. Helen, could I ask you just to introduce yourself and let everyone know a little bit about your background and what you're currently doing? That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be part of an event rather than lurking in the green room of a Zoom meeting. I'm Helen Fullerton. I am a senior event manager at NatWest Group. I have worked in the events industry for around 15 years. I started out in professional conference organising and exhibitions in 2006. I got made redundant from that job in 2008 with the global economic crisis. So I won't say that I know how you're all feeling. It's obviously a different situation, but I possibly do have some appreciation of some of the challenges that you're facing. I did get another job in PCO quite quickly. I did a project management job. I quit that job after a couple of years, much to the disgust of my parents, as obviously we were still recovering from this economic crisis. But I went off to New Zealand. I worked for an agency who were supporting Heineken, who were the headline sponsor for the Rugby World Cup. And then another agency for Samsung, who were sponsoring the Olympics back in the UK. Came home, did a bit of temping, and then I got my current job at NatWest, where I have been for 7 years, and I really enjoy it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Helen. How about you, Mark?
Hi, folks. Firstly, forgive me. I'm on site working, thankfully, and sitting in my Jeep trying to make internet happen. So hopefully this stays stable. I run a company called Safe Events, and Cuckoo Events. We're based in Dublin in Ireland. So we very much specialize in the safety and the planning for kind of large scale events. I was lucky enough, I've always worked in events. I was doing it voluntarily when I was in college, and then I was doing it in somewhat of a paid capacity. I was running an agency in Dublin when I was asked to go and work the Olympics in London, like a lot of us. So I had turned it down a few times simply because I had just started running this other agency for a guy I knew, and I didn't want to disappear. So I had said no a couple of times. And then a supplier to me when I worked running events in a university here, you know those people you meet where you go, you guys probably have met some of these in college yourselves, where you go, we'd work really well together, we should do something, blah, blah, blah. We had said that a million times. And around about the last time I turned down the Olympics, he rang me up and he said, look, I'm leaving where I am. If you and I want to do something, let's do it. And that was kind of the trigger for me. So I went in, handed in my notice, agreed to the Olympics, went and worked the Olympics. We set up our thing back here in Ireland while I was at the Olympics, and we were able to hit the ground running when we got back. So we're lucky enough to work on a lot of kind of the bigger events here. We work out in Saudi as well. So we've we've fallen into specializing on the safety side of things. Sometimes we're still making ballrooms pretty, or working on conferences for people, but generally I'm usually kind of similar to what I am now on a site, building stuff for an event. So that's kind of very active in kind of the education space and trying to help people get into the industry and stuff. We enjoy that. So, you know, being part of events like this, doing webinars and things that we set up, we put a lot of work and effort into that, because we know this is it's a great industry, but B, it can be tough to get that foot in the door. So always happy to do what we can on that front, and even talking on events like this are part of that, to show people that this industry still exists. I am windswept because I am working on an event currently. So as bad as things do seem to be, there is still work going on. And for a lot of you guys, by the time you finish your courses and come into the industry, it'll look different. It'll have stabilized. There'll be a new world order and new things we deal with because of COVID. But hopefully you're coming into an industry where events are being run nearly as regularly, if not as regularly, as they were before.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Mark. Right, I've got some questions I'm going to be asking. If anyone's got any questions, please pop them in the chat and I will ask them at the end. Fantastic. So let's just start right at the beginning. You know, what do you feel currently are the main challenges for the events industry? Can I direct that at Caroline to start with? Oh, Caroline, you're just on mute. Yeah.
I said that would happen. I said, as long as I don't leave it off. I think where I finished off with saying that I think the biggest challenge is still being valued, and knowing what our value actually is. And I don't mean in terms of the £70 billion as an industry within the UK. I mean how important we actually are. So that's why there's been a lot of campaigns. We've got the One Industry, One Voice, because although we've been communicating into government, we still need to also work with business and consumers in terms of that confidence going forwards. And I think a lot of people, the danger at the moment is undervaluing, and people thinking with the shift of balance between the supply and demand of people working in the industry is that they can get lots of skilled people on the cheap, and we've got to be really careful that we don't fall into that trap and people don't underprice or undervalue themselves. So there is a financial part to that that I think is the biggest challenge in the short term going forward into 2021.
Fantastic. Thank you, Caroline. And Helen, a question for you. How about do you feel things have changed, events in the corporate world?
Yeah, I mean, in a short time, obviously, we're only doing virtual events, and you know, that's been quite a challenge in itself, because you're constantly having to be creative in this sort of quite restrictive format, you know. So you know, everybody's on Zoom all day, every day, and it's been a challenge to kind of elevate your Zoom meeting to a Zoom event. And you know, what wowed people last week becomes old news very quickly, and you've got to think of something new for the next week. So in the short term, you know, that's what we've been looking at. But we were already moving to a kind of hybrid model anyway. You know, we're a big company. We've got staff all over the UK, Ireland, and around the world. So from a logistics perspective, from a budgetary perspective, from a sustainability perspective, hybrid events were making sense for us anyway. And you know, I thought we'd see kind of quite negative feedback when we moved to that model, in terms of people missing the opportunity to get everyone together. And there was a sort of thread of that in the feedback, but a really strong thread with the hybrid piece was like the well-being benefit. People just really appreciated not having to take days out of their schedule to travel to an event, to stay overnight in hotels, to rearrange their childcare. So I think the hybrid model is just giving us really good opportunity to allow people to consume content how they want, when they want, where they want. So I think that trend will continue through corporate events, especially company like ours, where their staff are spread out.
Fantastic. Thank you, Helen. And how about you, Mark? Do you have any kind of suggestions and ideas for students, graduates who are looking for work experience placements and internships at this time?
To be honest, I think my advice is probably quite similar to the advice I've always given as such for that. And that's to say that I don't think COVID has changed it really, except that I would suggest, as difficult as this sounds, that students just be aware as well that the likes of me running businesses, we're struggling as well. It's not, we're lucky to be busy, relatively speaking, quite busy, and I think we're going to survive this. But a lot of companies don't know if they'll be there in 3 months or 6 months. It's, you know, we're in a fairly similar situation here in Ireland as to you guys in the UK. So we genuinely, you've had a bit of clarity recently, so hopefully that goes well. But we don't know when we'll be back running actual big events again. So for me, and one of the things we love doing is taking in placements when we know we're busy enough that it'll be a great experience for them. Because again, we put time and resources into our placements and internships to make sure there's value for people. And right now, the likes of me just aren't in a position to take that leap. My focus at the minute is keeping my team together, my full-time team together and paid. So just have that in mind. It's not if you're getting no's or you're not even getting responses. It could be ignorance. It could be just people not getting back to you. But right now, because of COVID and everything that's going on, there's that other side of it too. Whereas like people are just day to day trying to keep their businesses going. So with that aside, my advice remains the same. You have to do something to stand out. To me, it doesn't matter what the thing is. So don't waste your time stressing over the thing. What's the genius idea? Googling what to do. Do something. We get, pre-COVID, we get 10 emails a day. People looking to work for free for us because we're a busy event company. So your competition is fierce. I would normally say at this point, look around you. The people in your class, they're your competition. The next university down the road, their event management class are your competition. Then there's people coming from abroad every year looking for work in this industry. It's tough, but do something to stand out and get your foot in the door. You have no excuse once you get your foot in the door. If you get in front of someone like me who is hiring, that's your chance. But so many people don't get to sit down in front of the people doing the hiring because it's quite clear you've sent the CV in that you've sent to 14 other companies. You don't know anything about us. Or I can actually tell from your email or your CV that you won't fit well with us. So do your research, try and pinpoint the ideal companies you want and work hard to make an impression and get in the door with them. That work will stand to you if you get your foot in the door for an interview. Whereas, and I don't want to rag on guidance counselors and the likes, but some of the advice isn't great in my experience. Don't just do one great CV and send it to everybody. Pick a few companies, get on LinkedIn, find out who works there, develop some relationships, do anything you can, because there are literally hundreds more of you trying to do the same thing. And there's great companies out there, there are great jobs out there, there'll be opportunities because of COVID, but the hard part for you is to get your foot in the door. So think about how to do that. If you want to work with me specifically, get on LinkedIn, see what I'm into, see what we specialize in, start a conversation. Then if I see your application come in, your name is in my head. You're going to get a foot in the door and I'll go, I was talking to you on LinkedIn. I like what you had to say, actually. I should meet with you. That's one simple example. So just do something. LinkedIn and developing a relationship or a conversation is a very good way to go about it, in my personal opinion. But beyond that, just do something different.
Great. Thank you, Mark. How about you, Caroline? Have you got any suggestions for people who are looking, for work experience placements for next year, internships, things that those watching can actually do?
Yeah, I mean, those of you that are in that position looking for internships, and that's happened this last year for grads and for students, and we always push for paid internships, but you've got to be pragmatic. You've got to say, okay, how much income do I need? Get any job that's going to pay the bills, and think about what any job is going to help, because events are multifaceted. So even if you're stacking shelves or packing parcels for Christmas and getting those delivered, you're still looking at the logistics. So see the bigger picture, even though you might be a small cog in a wheel. So that's a benefit. And then follow your passion. So as Mark said, keep looking at who might be the ideal organisation or the people that you can, and we've got lots of networks. So the networks is to join those communities. So we already have established trade and professional bodies that, because the partners of business visits, events partnerships. So if like Helen, you're you're sort of working on, say, PCOs, and you and Samantha, in terms of sort of professional conference organisers, you've got the Association of British Professional Conference Organisers, or if you're into festivals, you've got National Outdoor Events Association, outdoor events. So most of our established trade professional bodies are really keen to open their doors to students and graduates. You know, we want to see people develop and grow. Everyone does see you as the future of the industry. So even though there's a lot of people around, there is still that opportunity. So if you have to do something for free, again, don't think of it has to be packaged for you. It's not going to be packaged for you. You've got to go out and identify what your portfolio of skills and interests that you actually have, and just do little bits of it. And you can do that online. Accessibility is there because we've got the online platform. So reach out for people to do that. And as Mark said, you're then remembered because you've actually had something to say, or you've actually done something. So even, you know, and everyone has a to-do list. Everyone has areas that they want support on. So it might be a small project, or it might just be doing, say, the social media for an online event, because the more hands and eyes and fingers are really of benefit. And you've said, oh, look, I've been involved with a online events, and I've developed these skills, and that will all be your network. So you don't have to physically go to an event and actually shake hands with people. You now have access to a global marketplace, not just in the UK, but also globally. So, you know, I think the opportunities are perhaps better than they were, because perhaps you're having to look wider than just this bog standard internships and placements that have always come to your uni, and they recruit that way. So make the most of it.
Definitely. Thank you, Karen. I think it's about being innovative at this time and looking at different ways to get those opportunities. Absolutely. And Helen, Mark alluded to earlier about, you know, building connections on LinkedIn and reaching out to people on LinkedIn. Would you have any suggestions on how to build those connections at this time, you know, when everything is virtual?
Yeah, I think right. You need to be a bit sort of careful about how you do those LinkedIn connections. So don't just scattergun add 100 people. You know, find people that work for a company you're interested in, or they do a job that you're interested in. Ask them if they'll have a Zoom coffee or a coffee with you. They can only ignore you, but if you get a chat with them, then brilliant. And I think getting those chats with people is what's important. So, you know, if you approach someone, or you've got contact with a friend of a friend, or a friend of your family, or whatever it is, chat to that person, and don't approach it like a job interview. Maybe they don't have a job for you right now, but learn what you can from them. You know, you'll discover things that you do or don't like about a company, about a job that you might or might not want to do. And, you know, that person might have another connection for you, or a job might come up at another time. So it's just building your network that way, and keeping it, just keeping it going. Don't then just leave that contact, you know, come back to it and keep in touch with people.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And what are your views, you know, on long haul travel at the moment and its impact on events? Obviously, we've had lots of notifications about Christmas bubbles and you know, and things going back to kind of the local tier system from next week. What are your thoughts about kind of long-term, long haul travel? How about you, Mark?
I think the challenge with the travel for me is more about the actual destinations. And what stage of dealing with COVID they're in, and how things might be wildly different there to where you took off from. I think, strictly speaking, you're quite safe on a plane because they're already recirculating and refreshing air and everything. There's an argument to say it's one of the safest places you could be is on a decent modern plane. But I think the challenge is, you know, where are you going to, how long you'll have to quarantine and all that kind of stuff. And I think we're just going to have to deal with it. I think we'll all look back and we'll always be able to criticize governments and medical advice and say they were too harsh here and they were too lenient there. You know, it's not going to do anyone any good. We're rolling with the punches here. We're dealing with it as best we can. And, you know, we have to trust that there's idiots in government and there's idiots on the high street, and, you know, they'll get it right, they'll get it wrong, but, you know, it is what it is, and we're all better safe than sorry. What I wouldn't want to see happen, as much as I need to be back on events and I need to be in fields and I need to be bitching about the rain and the cold, I don't want to rush back. and it won't serve our industry, and it won't serve us on every element of the scale, whether that's, you know, financial viability, sanity, mental health, everything. It's not actually going to help if we rush back and get there too early. So I think if everyone kind of agrees there, then the likelihood is we will be overly cautious in hindsight. But I would much rather be there than rush back, have one festival that then has a massive cluster of cases and shut us all back down again. So in hindsight, we'll probably all go, oh, we played it quite cautious, but I'm kind of comfortable with that. As much as I need my business to get back to normal, I need that income coming in so I can pay everyone's wages. Like, I'm under serious pressure. We're all under serious pressure. But the worst thing we can do is just lose patience, ignore all the advice, and try and get back earlier than we can. Having said all that, I know we can run very safe outdoor events. Indoor is slightly more challenging, but can definitely be done. I think the challenge really at the bottom line is the financial viability and paying, to have half the audience or whatever. So promoters and organizers need to be able to figure that piece out. There's a huge opportunity here for brands who want to partner with safety companies and good event management companies to be associated with the safe events that start back again, because they 100% can be done. But we need the framework, we need the government to let us, and then we need someone, I guess, who can pay for it. So whether it's local authorities who aren't looking to make money back, or brands who want to be associated with something, there are definitely opportunities all across this. COVID is a pain, but it's presenting opportunities as well, I think.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. So I'm just going to ask you all now just to give me a quick answer to this question. Then I've got one question from someone watching, and then we'll have to kind of wrap up shortly. So at this point in time, we're obviously looking for the positives. What would you say is the one positive for event professionals at this time? Would you mind all giving one idea? Caroline, would you like to go first?
Okay, just to say that we will bounce back, and this will just be a little blip, hopefully. But do make the most of the one community you're part of, which is your own university and college. So you don't disappear and they disappear, they're still there. So your tutors, your careers service, and all of the other students who have been through that program, you've already got an established network. So I think that's a strength that you've got going forward.
Fantastic. Thank you. Helen?
Yeah, I think we've just got a great opportunity here to choose how we build back as an industry, to innovate and to change how we do things. And I think you're coming into the industry at a really exciting time and an opportunity to influence that.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Mark?
Yeah, I would say that one of the best things to come from COVID is how globally we've all come together a bit more as an industry, and people are trying to help one another. People are running webinars, giving free courses, all of that. So it sounds trite, but make the most of it. Seek out people who can help you, seek out courses, webinars, use the time as well as you can, as opposed to doing what we can feel like doing sometimes, which is just despair and think it's never going to bounce back, like Caroline says. So just make the best of the time, make those connections, because when we're all back hiring again and looking for good freelancers and all of that, you want to be top of mind. So whether it's LinkedIn or Zoom coffees or whatever, just definitely be doing that, because look, we can't say it any clearer. If we know your name or know your picture from talking to you on LinkedIn, or you commented on something we said, that puts you top of mind, and it has you ahead of hundreds of people. So just use the time and look forward to when we're using it better.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mark. Okay, this question I'll direct towards Caroline. We've got one from Grace. I'm currently on worker placement with my university, but would like to know what careers are available to me in the events industry. Wow, lots, I'd say.
Yeah. I mean, that's why events are mind-boggling, because there's so many opportunities, aren't there? So it is trying to choose that path. We don't tend to have a career in terms of you start at the bottom of a ladder and you climb up anymore. We've known in events for years that it's like a butterfly, that you actually flutter from one to the other and develop your own human capital, your own portfolio of skills and knowledge. So don't think I need a grad job and I'm going to be structured all the way through. You've got to make that route. So that bridge, part of bridging the gap, is quite straight, but in reality it will be winding and you'll have diversions and it'll be really exciting. And there'll be hills and there'll be troughs. So it's something for you, which is so easy for me to say, but I know it's more difficult for you when you're in that position. So there are a lot of organisations that have sort of set themselves up. So Event First Steps, what the work that Samantha does, the work, you know, you're on this event, so you've already made some networks of people who might be there, and you've got some great workshops, and you've got the speed networking at the end. So sometimes you don't really know what those opportunities are until it actually stares you in the face. You think, that rang a bell with me. I like that idea. I'm going to follow that up.
Lovely. Thank you, Caroline. And the very last question, what advice do you have in working, convincing local governments on presenting and making outdoor events happen? Can I direct that towards Mark? Last question from Darlene. Lovely to see you, Darlene.
That's a tough one. I mean, it's about, I think that's about pre-existing relationships and trust. I think unless you kind of already have those doors open to you, it's going to be very difficult to have the conversations. But if you can leverage relationships within those local authorities and councils to have the conversations, and they trust that you always run safe events, this is just another risk as far as those of us who run the big events are concerned. COVID is a risk, and as part of our risk assessment, we build our plan off. Here's how we're going to deal with it. So it's just about, I think, getting that foot in the door and being able to have the conversation with the right people. Local authorities are terrible if you're trying to find the right person. If you already know them, try and have those conversations and keep the lines of communication open. So as soon as anyone's allowed run it, we're hoping, we have a reputation for running them right. They know we want to run them right, so come to us first, please, and let's prove we can do it, I think.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you so much, Caroline. We need to finish there now. You can, of course, if you've got more questions, direct them directly to the speakers. I'm sure speakers would be happy to speak to anyone who wants to get in touch via LinkedIn, of course, and via the platform, reattendance as well. So I'm going to finish off now. Thank you so much, all three of you. That was fantastic for joining. Thanks, Mark, for making it from your Jeep as well. Fantastic.
No worries.
Please now go back into reattendance and then click on the next session, which is all about LinkedIn with Luann Wise. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll finish there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.